That small factory seems to be worth more than we thought. I thought it was boring, but maybe we made a mistake. If I'd known, I should have gotten a job there. Being family, promotion would have been guaranteed. Coming home from the funeral, I was shocked to hear my husband and son talking. I work at my father's small factory, but my son who works at a major trading company and my husband had always looked down on it. However, after seeing so many people attend my father's funeral, their attitudes suddenly changed. I can't bear the thought of them joining the company half-heartedly just because we're family. Besides, it's a huge mistake to think promotion is guaranteed just because we're related. There are people who make their living there and take pride in their work. I can't let them be insulted because of me. I quietly made my decision and packed my bags. I'm never coming back to this house. My name is Megan. I was born and raised as the only daughter of a small factory owner. My husband's name is Stefan. I married him about 30 years ago when he was a salesman at a trading company, and we had our son, Ulrich. Influenced by his father, Ulrich grew up to be an outgoing child with many connections. Rather than just outgoing, he's more like a show-off who loves flashy things. Before marriage, I found Stefan's similar traits fresh and attractive, but after marriage and seeing our son grow up the same way, I felt out of place with my different sensibilities. What worried me most was Stefan and Ulrich's attitude toward money. Both of them were extravagant spenders, often straining our household finances. We've had many arguments about this, but we never found common ground. However, I never imagined these dissatisfactions would lead to such a serious situation. I've worked at my father's factory since I was young. Having worked there for so long, I'm now the executive director. My father wanted Ulrich to help with the factory management, but young and flashy Ulrich seemed more interested in sales work at the trading company where my husband works rather than our factory. I like talking to people, so I think I'm suited for sales, Ulrich told my father, but I know he privately dismissed the factory as boring and undesirable. My father must have sensed Ulrich's thoughts because he stopped talking to him about the factory afterward. It was painful to see my father's lonely back, but like Ulrich, Stefan had no interest in factory management and clearly looked down on small factories as mere subcontractors. It doesn't feel good to have the factory that my father and I cherish being looked down upon. However, I gave up trying to change Stefan's mind, knowing that we fundamentally think differently due to his flashy nature. I'm going motorcycle touring with some acquaintances next time. I'm thinking of buying a bike since I'm taking Ulrich too. What? But aren't motorcycles expensive? You're buying it? You should pay half. Since we both work, we have an arrangement where we split living expenses and use our own money freely otherwise. But this is so sudden. When I showed reluctance, Stefan raised his eyebrows. Ulrich's in sales too, so connections are important. It's for our son's sake, so what's the problem? Fine. But while motorcycles are nice, why don't you sometimes take Ulrich to visit my father? His health isn't good again, and he might need to be hospitalized. Seeing his grandson might cheer him up. Although my father is healthy enough to run the company, he can't fight age and has recently been having short hospital stays and medical tests. My mother passed away several years ago, so I worry about my father living alone. However, Stefan gave a non-committal response to my plea. Well, it's difficult now because we're busy, but someday. Recently, Stefan becomes irritable whenever I point something out. This time too, he immediately frowned at me. When I said, "I'm talking about Ulrich, not you," he shouted, "Shut up. I talk business with Ulrich, so I know he's busy. We're both in sales." I need to pass on my expertise to him. I've recently started to think they both just want to fool around. Stefan has always been away from home claiming work socializing, and I've practically raised our child alone. Perhaps influenced by seeing his father, Ulrich sometimes makes outdated remarks like, "That's just how men are." With this personality, I worry whether my son will ever be able to marry. Well, anyway, that's how it is. Count on you for the bike. Later, I learned that Ulrich had secretly met with my father. Ulrich suddenly came to the house. I wondered what was up, and he asked for money. Said he wanted to buy a motorcycle helmet. When my father mentioned this during casual conversation, I held my head in my hands. Oh no. Stefan told me to pay half for Ulrich's motorcycle. Well, he's my precious grandson, so I gave him the money. Like most grandparents, my father is soft on his grandson. However, that indulgence seemed to be reaching its limit as he watched Ulrich's selfishness grow with age. Even I, though he's my son, am fed up with his selfishness. And the same goes for Stefan, whom I supposedly married for love. Stefan never helped with housework or childcare, always going out claiming it was for work. Back then, my mother was still alive and my workplace was understanding, so we managed somehow, but now I feel my love growing cold. Megan, sorry, but I need to be hospitalized again. Please take care of the company. Yes, I understand. To be honest, I'm starting to think about divorcing Stefan. As for the factory, I can't entrust it to Ulrich, and he probably doesn't want to inherit it anyway. It would be better to groom someone unrelated by blood to take over. I'll discuss this with my father after he's discharged. He'll surely agree. After my father was hospitalized, my days became hectic with work and caregiving. At work, everyone cooperated to keep things running somehow. It's busy, but I can manage when I think about being able to hold my head high when father returns. The problem is caregiving. As usual, Stefan and Ulrich make excuses about being busy with work and never visit the hospital. Ever since I scolded Ulrich for begging my father for pocket money, he seems to be sulking. Stefan sides with Ulrich. It brings me to tears that these grown men only visit my father to beg for pocket money. Did I raise him wrong? Megan, don't say that. You did your best. Don't worry too much. Being consoled by my hospitalized father, weakened in body and spirit, makes me feel deeply respectful of him. I felt strong dissatisfaction that Stefan and Ulrich didn't respect my father. I might not be able to leave the hospital this time. Father. Don't say such things. My voice was almost a scream. I had vaguely prepared myself. Besides, the company can run without my father. This is thanks to him allocating work with this situation in mind. I'm getting old. I've made preparations and I'm ready. I'm leaving the company to you. Even if I could leave the hospital, I'm going to retire. I was speechless. My father had worked on the front lines for so many years. And as he declared, he never left the hospital. My father passed away a month later. It was a peaceful end. I felt like I'd lost my only ally in this world, and I clung to my father and cried for a while. But I can't just stand still. I have things I need to do. Everyone at the company is cooperating. The problem, naturally, was Stefan and Ulrich. My father-in-law passed away? That's too bad. Looking at their seemingly sorry faces, I thought, you didn't even visit him in the hospital. I swallowed my words and proceeded with the funeral arrangements. Why do we need to arrange such a big funeral hall? Family only should be fine. Let's just see him off ourselves. People from the company and business partners will come too. We can't do that. You both always talk about how important business connections are. When I showed them the plan I discussed with the funeral director, Stefan and Ulrich objected. It's laughable that people who never visited him in the hospital are expressing opinions. They probably just don't want to pay. It's really annoying how they're like this even though it's not their money. He was just the president of a small factory, right? No way enough people will come to need such a funeral hall.
Yeah.
Why put on airs for such a shabby factory? What did you say? When I raised my eyebrows, Ulrich seemed to realize his slip and awkwardly looked away. I knew they looked down on the factory, but this was the first time they'd clearly called it shabby. Even though he grew up on money from that shabby factory and was still getting pocket money at age 25. Really, how did he end up growing into someone like this? Anyway, I oppose this. Such a large-scale funeral isn't necessary. What would you know about the company? I'm a salesman at a major trading company. I've attended more of these occasions than you. I know better than you. It was clear that Stefan also looked down on the factory. He glared at me grumpily. Even if you run short on money, I won't help at all. It's your fault for putting on airs. After making me pay for motorcycles, golf, and other things claiming they were necessary for work, I'm amazed he can say this. How many times had he asked for my cooperation for his work's success? The money I've given bit by bit has added up to quite a sum by now. Enough for another funeral of the scale he's objecting to. Don't worry, the company will handle the funeral, and if anything comes up, I'll pay for it myself. Do what you want. You always told me to stop wasting money, but now you're spending it on something like this. Ulrich seemed unhappy even about me paying. Does he think his parents' money is his money? Your grandfather was the president. This isn't a waste of money. Ulrich. It's useless to say anything more. Let's go. That's what I want to say. Ulrich and Stefan glared at me resentfully before leaving. They'll probably go play somewhere again, claiming it's for work. They say they'll attend the funeral, so I'll have to turn a blind eye to everything else. After they stopped interfering with the funeral arrangements, everything proceeded smoothly. Things were a bit awkward at home, but I was too busy to care. I did the minimum housework, but otherwise was fully occupied with funeral preparations and work. Then on the day of the funeral, Stefan and Ulrich's eyes widened. So many people came? Even politicians and celebrities are here. Isn't that my company's president? The funeral hall I arranged was filled with people. It seemed unexpected for the two who had looked down on my father's company. Stefan hurriedly went to greet his company's president when he spotted him. President, thank you for attending. Ah, my condolences. I'm saddened to lose such a valuable person. You're too kind. As Stefan bowed, the president ended the conversation and walked toward me. Stefan watched his back with a surprised expression. It must be hard losing your father. Will you be taking over the factory? Until I see father's will, I can't say for sure, but that's my intention. I see. As executive director, you'll be fine. We'll support you. Your father helped us greatly. Stefan and Ulrich seemed puzzled why the president of a major trading company would speak as an equal with the executive director of a small factory. However, as soon as I mentioned my father's will, their expressions changed. With an ominous feeling, I spent time sharing memories of my father with the funeral attendees. After the funeral, I was busy with cleanup. Ulrich and Stefan hurried home first. Since only I had been involved in the preparations from the start, this was natural, but I felt strangely drained. There's still a lot to do, so thank you for your help tomorrow too. After thanking the employees who helped, I left the funeral hall. The cleanup finished earlier than planned, so I headed home thinking I could finally rest properly. I said, "I'm home," but got no response. I thought they might still be sulking about the funeral, but the conversation I heard from the living room seemed strange. I listened to see what was going on. Ulrich and Stefan were talking excitedly. "That small factory seems to be worth more than we thought. I thought it was boring, but maybe we made a mistake. If I'd known, I should have gotten a job there. Being family, promotion would have been guaranteed." As their words became clearly audible, I was speechless. I can't bear the thought of them joining the company we've desperately protected just for fun. Besides, it's a huge mistake to think promotion is guaranteed just because we're family. That's why Mom became executive director, because she's family. The employees would surely prefer a male president. My body trembled with anger at their words that insulted both me and the company. Taking maternity and childcare leave and getting promoted, what a sweet deal. Men can't get promoted even working themselves to death without taking such breaks. Maternity and childcare leave aren't the kind of breaks they think. It's like working a different job while away from the company. I keenly felt the failure in my child rearing. To think Ulrich had grown into someone with such a narrow, outdated mindset. Moreover, he looks down on and even mocks his own mother. Well, it's not too late. Ulrich, why don't you say you'll help your mother and change jobs? It'll all be yours soon anyway. Ulrich turning out this way is largely Stefan's influence. My husband never helped with childcare or housework, but when he felt like it, he wanted to let our son do expensive activities. That hasn't changed since Ulrich was a child. That's right. Next president sounds good. I'll talk to Mom. Stefan and Ulrich's fulfilling lives are built on my sacrifices. Words I tried not to think about took clear form in my mind at that moment. At this rate, I'll continue to be trampled by them. Moreover, they were about to carelessly trample the factory and company that I, my parents, and the employees had desperately protected. There are many people who make their living and find fulfillment in their work at that company. I can't let my misjudgment harm the employees. I quietly made my decision and walked past the living room where my husband and son were chatting. Thanks to preparations for the funeral that included overnight stays, my bags were already somewhat packed. Perhaps because I'd been thinking about divorce deep down. The bags were ready to go at any moment. And so I left the house. Stefan and Ulrich didn't even notice. I got into my car without looking back. It was perfect timing to return to my parents' home where my father had lived alone. I couldn't bear to sell it, and it's plenty spacious. It might be too big for one person, but since my father was like a face of this town, many people around here would regret if I sold the house. I'd been staying here when my father's condition was bad anyway, so preparations for me to live here were already complete. I mailed divorce papers to my husband. The day after I left home, I received countless calls from Stefan. "Megan, where are you now?" I couldn't help but frown at the sudden loud voice on the phone. "Where?" "At my parents' house." "Haven't the divorce papers arrived yet?" "Divorce papers? What's going on?" "I haven't heard anything about this." Stefan was clearly flustered. He must be troubled about losing his cash cow. I let out an exaggerated sigh. The difference in our sense of money has become impossible to overlook lately. Ulrich's grown up now, so it's fine. You two men can enjoy yourselves. No, let's talk about this. I'll fix what's wrong. Unlike usual, he didn't shout in anger. Perhaps because he thinks of me as a cash cow, he's trying to forcibly curry favor. And Ulrich is the same. Mom, suddenly leaving is too much. Come back home. We're parent and child, right? Let's talk. Ulrich, you're 25 now. You should be able to manage without your mother. Become independent. My independence and Mom leaving home are different issues. It's sad for family to split up, regardless of independence. He too was uncharacteristically meek, unlike his usual arrogant attitude. Even though they always left everything about the house to me while they went out playing. On top of that, they looked down on my workplace and me, acting as if they were superior. Now they suddenly flip and talk about being sad and family and wanting to talk. What are they saying at this point? When I think about how they're looking at my father's company behind their changed attitudes, it makes me sick. However, I'm living at my parents' house. They know the address, so if I stubbornly refuse here, they'll just show up. After thinking a bit, I decided to talk with them once. All right. But I want a divorce. Remember that. Okay. Let's just talk first. Stefan and Ulrich are underestimating me. They're probably full of themselves about being good at sales and think they can easily persuade someone like me once we meet in person. They can think that way for now. I'm completely fed up with them. I started preparing for the meeting to cut ties with them completely. The meeting was held 3 days later. They unusually wanted to meet right away, though they normally make excuses about being busy with work and leave the house. I wanted about a week to prepare, but Stefan and Ulrich wouldn't allow it. They probably planned to team up and persuade me. They must have thought that if they waited a week, I would become too wise to their tactics. Indeed, that's what I had planned. However, if they cut off my means of fighting back alone, I'll consider other options. Actually, I had already started preparing when I said I wanted a divorce. Moving up the schedule slightly wasn't any inconvenience to me. I brought a lawyer, I said. I brought the lawyer who often helps us with company matters. He's the most famous in the area and known for being strong in divorce cases. Stefan and Ulrich seemed to cower at the mention of a lawyer. Hey, this isn't peaceful. Bringing a lawyer to a family discussion, aren't you being a bit confrontational? Their forced laughter was pathetic. Their voices were trembling, they probably had far less composure than expected. I told you, didn't I? I want a divorce. If you won't agree to it, this much is normal. Mom, do you want to cut ties with us that badly? Ulrich looked at me with a sad face. Before, I might have been swayed by this, but after hearing Stefan and Ulrich's conversation in the living room, I surprisingly felt no affection for either my husband or son. Yes. I naturally want to cut ties with someone who thinks about transferring to my father's company just because they think they can get promoted for being family. Ulrich's face turned bright red and he fell silent. He probably never thought I had heard that day's conversation. They're quite naive not to have suspected anything even though I left that very day. You. Why did you? Oh. You were so absorbed in talking that you didn't notice I had come home. That really made me lose all patience with you. I don't want you touching that company with even a finger. While Stefan's mouth moved as if wanting to say something, no words came out. Then, as if to deliver a final blow, the lawyer handed Stefan some documents. I understand that since the beginning of your marriage, you've been asking Megan for money, claiming it was for work. Moreover, Megan has kept detailed notes about the intended use, amounts, and dates of all money given to you. We would like you to return this total amount. If you agree to this, she won't demand any consolation money. What? Stefan snatched the documents and stared at them intently. It's almost the same amount as the funeral costs he so vehemently objected to. But this. That's right. This includes money for Ulrich too. Isn't this child support? His desperate excuse is exasperating. He's truly greedy when it comes to money. There's no way money after he became an adult and got a job could be child support. Though I was going to say that, I've actually excluded the money that was supposedly for Ulrich. Even so, this is the amount. Stefan glared at the documents with a pale face. He seemed to want to say it was unbelievable. Apparently, he doesn't accurately remember how much money he spent on what. Since long ago, you always wanted to buy expensive things like shoes, suits, and watches, saying it was for sales work. Every time, you begged me for money, saying it was for work. I told you I was just lending it, remember? But, we're married, so cooperating is natural. I don't remember you ever cooperating with me. Stefan always left housework and childcare entirely to me. Unfortunately, there are no witnesses, so demanding consolation money for that would be difficult. I gave up on consolation money because I don't want to have a long legal battle with this person. Even this claim for borrowed money repayment is almost like harassment. Though the lawyer assured me he would definitely collect it, I honestly don't care about this as long as I can protect the company my father left behind. Stefan fell silent, and I watched him. In the silence, Ulrich spoke up. If you want to divorce Dad that badly, you two can talk about that. But I'm your son, right? The promotion and job change thing was just a momentary lapse. I'll change my ways and work hard, so please forgive me. Those words themselves prove he hasn't changed his ways, but does he realize that? Stefan, feeling betrayed, was looking around wildly. Ulrich. You're abandoning me. With such debt, of course Mom would get fed up. I'm Mom's son. Even if she wants to cut ties, she can't. It seems he decided to abandon his father and curry favor with me, probably thinking about inheritance and such. Like his father, he's shameless to the end. Even though I was the one who raised him single-handedly, I wonder where I went wrong in raising him. Lately, whenever I see Ulrich, I can't help but think about this. Yes, parent-child ties can't be severed. Stefan's shoulders drooped, and Ulrich smiled. Stefan looked ready to grab Ulrich, who was smiling. Though they were close parent and child until now, look at them when money gets involved. Selfish people are frightening. But you know, Ulrich. I don't want someone like you, who has silly reasons like wanting to become president or get promoted, involved with Dad's company. Ulrich's expression froze. At that moment, the intercom rang. Stefan frowned suspiciously. What? Who could it be at a time like this? Probably the guest I invited. Stefan and Ulrich were visibly shaken. Finding it troublesome to explain, I silently stood up alone and invited the guest in. President, thank you for taking the time to come. I couldn't refuse when you consulted me. President. The one who came was the president of the trading company where Stefan works. He's an old acquaintance of my father and also a business partner of the factory. Though Stefan didn't know until the funeral, we've had a close relationship for quite some time. Though like the lawyer, this is just because he was my father's acquaintance. I heard one of our employees was causing trouble. I apologize. No, since he's my husband, you don't need to apologize. Rather, I'm sorry for troubling you to come. It's fine. Your father helped me tremendously, and I want to maintain a long relationship with your company. The president looked at Stefan with a gentle smile. Being in front of his employer, Stefan straightened his posture while sweating profusely. Stefan, was it? We'd have problems if someone like you who doesn't know right from left gets involved with that company. I'm sorry, but could you give up? The small factory. Seeing Stefan's surprise, the president shook his head with a deep sigh. Stefan seemed unable to understand the situation. It was really fortunate that your predecessor kept private and business matters separate. Though because of that, Megan ended up marrying someone like you. It was lucky for us that our business wasn't terminated despite your rudeness. What do you mean? Ah, your son is in the sales department at Ravenwood Trading, right? Mr. Ravenwood has something to tell your son. Here, the phone is connected, talk a bit. Ah, yes. Just having the president here dramatically changes the atmosphere of the room. The president handed his smartphone to Ulrich. The president of Ravenwood Trading is also one of our company's business partners. Stefan, you should divorce Megan. But this is a family matter. But you're interested in that company, right? Then it's no good. Even if you weren't interested, it would still be no good. You and Ulrich aren't suited for management. When a current president says it, it carries different weight. Stefan lost his words and seemed desperately searching for a way to counter. You don't know how many patents that company holds, do you? Megan manages the patents too. The patents that company holds are quite valuable. We can't keep people who might be blinded by that value near Megan. The patent talk seemed new to Stefan, who froze with his mouth open. The president ignored Stefan's dismay and spoke in a leisurely tone. Do you understand? Just one mistake in handling patents could lead to damage across the entire industry. We can't let someone who doesn't understand this get involved with that company. Ulrich was probably being told the same thing by Mr. Ravenwood. Looking at Stefan, who was still trying to argue, the president declared, if you don't want to end up on the streets, stop being greedy. It's essentially saying he'll crush them if they try to get more involved. The president is in a position to do that. Moreover, thinking of the faces of those who attended Father's funeral, if all those company presidents, lawyers, politicians, and famous people think the same as the president, Stefan and Ulrich would be blown away like paper in the wind and rain. I understand, Stefan said weakly, hanging his head. He must have imagined his own fate in such a situation. Ulrich also promised, like Stefan, not to get involved with me anymore. Afterward, I successfully divorced and got back the money I had lent to Stefan. Stefan and Ulrich were both demoted due to this incident and forced to relocate. Stefan was transferred south and Ulrich west, to distant locations. Moreover, they were given dead-end positions with much lower salaries, and promotion is no longer possible. It's worrying to leave him unchecked, so we plan to keep employing him. Mr. Ravenwood has the same intention. While feeling an unfathomable fear at the president's words, I gratefully accept his help since it saves me. I intend to repay this debt by supporting the company my father left behind. Free from Stefan and Ulrich, I'm immersed in my work and living a fulfilling life every day. The small factory my parents left behind is my life's purpose. With the president's words in my heart, I continue working hard today.